So I told you I was going to just kind of show you, how you could do this just a little bit different um, without having to use these planes. And this is probably just, for me, just a method that I've been using in the past, not necessarily always having to turn on the work planes, but just to know that you can create a mirrored feature pretty simple. And if going in and working in these planes and the axis is something that is kind of overwhelming right now, you can create your own axis and use an axis or a drawn axis for your revolve, if that helps you out. So I'm gonna just go back to the whole thing. I'm gonna just create a sketch on my XY plane, just as I have been doing before, and I'm just gonna sketch out this part once again. And even for this one, I'm gonna just show you, if you the mirror feature, you could work around this without having to do the mirror feature. What it would involve is actually placing some more dimensions than you may really want to. So I'm just going to go back in here. I'm just real quickly just going to sketch out that feature. And you know what? I could actually here. So we know that this part, when we dimensioned it, it was a half of an inch, but for the whole dimension is going to be 1 inch. So that's important. And this time, instead of actually using one of the axes, I'm going to just draw a line at the origin, and this is going to be my rotation axis. And my computer's getting a little slow there. What's going on here? There we go. All right, so now when I place these dimensions, just kind of, once again, just a little bit different approach than what was given in the book. So if I knew the diameter was 0.75, I could do 0.75 divided by 2, and I'm looking at doing the radius. And so I can see that I don't like what just happened there. So I'm going to undo that just for a minute and then go back and start with the larger dimensions here. So from here to here is 2 inches. And yes, there we go. This other one here is 3.75 divided by 2. Okay, so that would be the same over here on the other side. Inside dimension was 3.5 divided by 2. Wrong one. And hopefully, as I'm doing this, you could see that if I had set this up just a little bit different, maybe sketched it with the dimensions, like applying the dimensions, that could have saved me a lot of time and made those points the same, because right now I'm putting a lot of dimensions on here and I'm having to do it twice. So yes, there is definitely a smarter way of going about this, but I wanted to make sure that you saw the just another different method than what the book gave you. So there's always multiple ways of doing things, and you need to find out what works best for you. And I need to stop talking while I'm doing this. I'm messing up. But you need to find out what works best for you, and develop that method and stick with it, because it will make you a little bit faster if you find what works for you and things that are easier for you to remember to do. So I have just, let's see, this one, that one was 0.75. I'm just sorry. Talking and keeping track of all these numbers at the same time is not always the easiest thing. So let me concentrate here for just a few minutes to get this all wrapped. Alright, so there we go. So this time I've got the whole entire part drawn out, and I'm going to use the revolve command. I'm going to use this line right here as my axis. So I'm going to finish my sketch and use the revolve command, and that's not, I meant to hit revolve. So I'm going to use revolve. So there's my profile that's already selected. When I select my axis this time, I'm going to pick this line right here, and it's going to revolve around that line. Hit OK, and there we go. So just a little bit more work as far as like dimensioning, but some people might find that a little bit more simple to kind of keep up with. You know, it's pretty easy if you're sketching something and I'm just going to start a new sketch here, but you sketch, you can create a line and keep that as your as an axis point, and it may you may find that it's a little bit easier. So just real quickly, picking this here, drawing a line for my axis, creating a sketch of some sort. I'll just pick that there. Putting that dimension, using the revolve command. Here's the profile. Here is the axis, revolving it and hitting OK. So it's just another, like I said, another way, instead of working with all the planes and the axis. Like I said, if that bogs you down and makes it more complicated than it really needs to be, just thinking of it in those simple terms of just drawing a line and using a line as your axis. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and turn those work planes off. I don't like to have those on when I'm working. And the next thing we're going to look towards is creating a pattern. So we're going to sketch out the hole on this piece here, and then we're going to use the pattern command, the circular pattern command, in order to array those, so that way you only have to draw it one time and use one of their feature commands to make this work a little bit quicker for you. So as we do the next feature on this part, I'm going to fast forward through the 11, 15, 11, 16, and 11, 17 pages. They have you draw this part over here on the side and then modify the angle. So if I were drawing this part and I saw that this hole needed to be here on the vertical axis, I would probably just go ahead and start from there to begin with. So the cut feature for this, I'm going to go ahead and cut that hole out after I finish sketching it. And when I do that, this is now a feature that has been cut, and now this is something that we can use in order to use one of our pattern features. So once this has been done, I'm going to look over here under my pattern again. I do have a circular pattern. This circular pattern will basically array that whatever feature you point to. So you got to remember that you actually have to go through and physically cut this out before you're using this particular command. This one is actually intended to actually array the feature. So the feature is extrusion 1 on this drawing. So when you point to either the feature right here on the part, or you point to extrusion 1 over here on your browser, that is the actual feature that it's looking for. So select that, and then you're going to be looking for the rotation axis. So point to the rotation axis and then I just pick something, some part that has a circular point to it, so then that way it's going to revolve around that axis. Here you can change the number of items. For this one, it's going to be 5. Change that to 5. 360 degrees. Here you could change your rotation if you needed to. I usually leave that set the way it is, and you can see that just revolving those cutouts. Just hit OK, and that is quickly done. So if you ever needed to go back and change anything, that's a feature, so it can be edited. So if I wanted to change that to 3, once again, just type in 360 degrees. If I wanted to change the angle, let's just say I had 3 of them, but I only wanted it to be within, 300 degrees. It could draw those as well. So, you have some options there. I'm going to leave it like that. And the important thing to remember is that when you're working with this is that you're selecting the feature. So make sure you go ahead, draw the circle on there, go ahead and cut it out. And as soon as you cut it out, that's now an extrusion. And that's what you're looking to do with your circular pattern. You're looking to actually array that feature itself. As we look into the next couple pages of this chapter, it's about drawing a title block. I am going to skip over that. That's something that's probably going to be, I think it's a little bit more based on AutoCAD, really not worth the time that it's going to take for us to draw that title block. I probably wouldn't end up using it anyway. So I'm going to skip over that part and move straight over into creating a section using this part for the next section. So I'm going to save this part, and then we'll set up the drawing for the next portion of this drawing.